Okay, so are folks able to see my screen? Feel free to type in chat like yes or something if you're able to see my screen. Okay, I see thumbs up from Kumaraguru. Nice. Awesome. So probably this date is different. Today is 14th. Okay. Okay, so welcome back to the ASAN seminar. And in today's lecture, we are going to dive deep, but not as deep, but as much as possible into this particular idea of how to solve programming problems. Again, given the 50-minute to 1 hour duration that we have, I don't think we'd be really able to cover a lot, but I will try my best to do as much as possible here. Okay. And this is such an important, so to give you some background about this, okay, so to give you some background about this particular topic, first I will just like to start with how I became interested in doing research in this topic. So one of my current research areas is trying to understand how to solve programming problems and how could we teach that idea to like to students who are beginning to program or who are in the undergraduate education. Okay, so to help understand that process, like how I became interested in this, I'm going to share a quick backstory behind this. Okay, so if you were in my previous lecture, I was telling you that in the initial 2 years or even throughout my undergrad, I was having difficulty getting to learn programming in a way that, okay, so what are the best practices here, trying to understand those things and trying to follow those things, right? So initially, whenever in the first 2 years in my undergrad, whenever I was given a programming problem, the way that I go about doing it, which I see many students even do it right now, is that I just start with let's say writing the entire program. So if it is a C program, I start with, let's say, hash include stdio.h, and then what are the include files here, and then I start a main function here, and then I almost write my entire, I wrote my entire program. And let's say if there are other functions like function 1 and so on, I write this whole thing and the process continues. So if it is function 2, then function 3, then function n, I try almost writing the entire program as if I'm writing an essay, and then I try running it. Okay, and when I run it, there would be what to say, 10 to 100, tens or hundreds of errors, right? Errors that will be reported. So when this happens, when 10 to hundreds of errors are reported, suddenly I see when I compile it, right? When I compile it in the compiler, it gives me okay, error 1, this one, error 2, there's something else, error 3, there's something else. So many things. I had no idea how am I even going to fix these errors? Okay, how am I even going to fix these errors in order to make sure that I write this program? Okay, but later, during my end of my second year or third year in my undergrad, I had an experience. Okay, I was at one of my friend's place. We were doing a project together, and that friend, the friend of mine, he had an elder brother who already knew programming, and so he knew some of the practices. He learned from practices from him, and the way that he was programming was not, he did not even start with the hash include as I usually do, right? He just started with writing some, okay, he started okay, let's write a main function, and let's just write one function that we are interested in right now, the function 1, and then let's see if this works. Okay, let's call this function and let's see if this works. And he broke down the problem into so smaller parts that it was not like we are trying to debug the entire program when it is not working, but we are only focusing on one function at a time, or one task at a time, and then trying to complete it, making sure if it works, and then proceeding to the next problem. Okay, so this experience, working with them, gave me such a light bulb situation, right? You're wow. So why didn't I even know that we could do it in a step-by-step manner? Why was I writing programs as if I was writing essays, right? Writing the whole thing at the same time at one go. And then this gave me so much interest into, okay, so now let's understand how actually students doing this. And in my experience here as a professor, at University of California, San Diego, and also previously when I was a PhD student at University of Wisconsin, Madison. Even there, I was teaching multiple CS classes. What I used to see in during my office hours. Office hours is a time where when students here have some difficulty working on a programming assignment, they can come to the instructor to ask for help. Okay, so when they come to my office hours, I look at that program. There will be like around 10 functions, 10 to 15 functions, and students would have returned like all the 10 to 15 functions. And then when we try running it, the program would not even compile. So I had no idea how were they writing all these different functions. And so I realized that I was able to relate to them very well because I was in that same shoes like a few years back. And so this problem even started, okay, helping us understand, okay, how could we go about teaching programming in a better way? And that is what my research topic on live coding is all about. Okay, so we will look at what live coding is today, but like this is a way of teaching programming. This is a way of teaching programming where we show the students the programming processes that go behind while writing a program by actually doing it. Instead of using slides and well-written programs, we actually show them this is how you go about writing programs. These are the struggles you may face. These are the errors that you may get. And when we are doing live coding, sometimes errors happen intentionally, but many times errors happen unintentionally. And when they happen unintentionally, those are such learning moments for the students to see me like debug a particular problem and then get out of it, like fix it and correct it. And so with this brief introduction, about the story behind how I got interested in this area of how to solve programming problems and the specific topic called live coding, now I'm going to start with the key topics for today are going to be incremental development, okay, and testing and debugging. So just to be clear, I could even talk about these topics for like nearly a week or even like more than like nearly for 2 weeks and stuff, okay? But we are going to give a high-level glimpse of like what these topics are about, and if you are more interested, you could feel free to like reach out to me later on too, okay? So throughout this lecture, we will be using this lecture participation form, okay? So I'm sharing this form in the chat. As you know, this is a Google form, right? Like the last class we had, this is a Google form, and one important thing to note here is the questions here, except the email and the name and your name, okay, the questions here are all like not mandatory questions. And the reason for that is I would like you to start with writing your name, okay, writing your name here in the email. And then for the first part right now, before even we start anything, I would like to learn from you. I would like to understand from you what do you think, like when you hear of these terms, incremental development, testing, and debugging, how do you define it, or like what do you think? So you can just say like incremental development is the process of something. Okay, it's the process of about how do you define it? Think of it to be like that. And then after this, testing, I think testing is doing dash, okay? Testing is doing this, okay? And similarly, how would you define debugging, okay? And just in case if you have not heard any of these terms, and if you are not familiar with any of these terms, that is totally fine. You can just say like debugging, I have not heard about it, okay? I have not heard about this before, or I do not know. You can just say I do not know. That's totally fine. Okay, so this is the only question I want you to answer right now. Okay, just fill in your email, your name, and then the only question that I want you to answer right now. Do not worry about any other questions here. And just once you answer this question, go ahead and click submit. Okay, that's all I want right now. And we are going to take around 3 minutes for this exercise. Okay, 3 minutes for just answering the single question. Okay, if there are any questions about this, feel free to let me know. And once you submit that question, you can go to submit another response and have this ready so that we can work on the other questions as we go through the lecture, okay? So the first, I want to know what do you mean by incremental development, testing, and debugging? Okay, let's go ahead and start working on it. The 3 minutes starts now. Again, you need not write like what to say, really long paragraphs there. You just like if you can define each of those things in a single like 1 or 2 sentences, that should be good enough. I just want to like know what do folks think about these things. And if you, for folks who just joined us now, if you just joined us now, we are filling out this Google form that I just shared in chat, and we are only answering the question on how would you define incremental development, testing, and debugging. If you haven't heard of any of these terms, I think it should be just, if you haven't heard of any of these terms, you can just say, I haven't heard about X before. Okay, X can be incremental development or testing or debugging. I already see like folks are starting to answer, which is good. We still have another minute and a half, so please work on this before we proceed. See answers coming up. Yeah, good answers are starting to come up. While you're like filling this up, I'm just going to like start reading like a few responses here. Few people think that incremental development is developing step by step like addition. Nice, okay. Checking if the code is running correctly is testing, and debugging is correcting the errors. Good. Increment development is a methodology that involves development of code where after each stage of development, it is checked if the requirements are met and any issues rectified and a new version of code is produced. Good. Testing refers to the application of test cases to evaluate the viability and efficacy of code. Just going to like view this in a spreadsheet so that like as students are writing this, we need not worry about it. Okay, I'm just going to write these columns. You can just look at the content here. Okay, so incremental development is a process of finding solution for a problem step by step. In this context, to write code step by step instead of writing the entire solution, write solutions in modules and test them. Testing would be checking the solution with all the possible cases. Debugging is finding errors in the proposed solution. Okay, I'm good. Like I think people have got most of you have got a really good understanding of like what these 3 different processes are. So let's just jump right into that. Okay, let's just jump right into it. Let's start with incremental development. Okay, let's start with incremental development. And for doing this, okay, with the specific context, I'm going to take a small problem, right? And remember, this problem is like a classical problem in computing education research, okay? And this is like well-known problem. I'll start reading like what this problem is about, and then let's go about try solving it, okay? So here we say like this is called rainfall problem. Write a program that processes an input, okay, consisting of daily rainfall measurements. Assume they are integers, okay? You can assume this is just for this particular example. Okay, it can be float also or double in the real world, but it can assume that these are just integers until it encounters the integer 99999. So we are saying that you have to like keep on processing input from the user until the user enters 99999. The program should output the count, that is number of days with valid rainfall, and the average of the non-negative numbers encountered before 99999. Okay, this is like tricky. You should like think about it. And note user inputs are shown in orange. So one of the important things whenever you read such a programming problem, at least one thing that I find it super helpful and I would highly recommend is before really understanding what they are asking us to do or like what is that problem about, please do not start programming. Okay, please do not start programming. I would like thoroughly understand what are my requests, what am I required to do. Okay, so in this case, okay, I'll reread the problem prompt again. Write a program that processes an input consisting of daily rainfall measurements, which are integers, until it encounters the number 99999. Good. The program should output the count, which is that is the number of days with valid rainfall. Okay, and the average of the non-negative numbers. So it is asking us to output two things. One is the number of valid days and the average of the non-negative numbers encountered before 99999. But still, like in the program prompt, we haven't really defined which days are valid and which days are not valid, because here we say number of days with valid rainfall, right? So in this case, probably more details could have been provided here, but we also have some sample runs for us to understand how this works. Okay, since I'm explaining this, I did not write everything in here in the prompt. Okay, but you can see here that if it is 10, the user enters 10 as a sample run. In the second, for the second rainfall value, user enters 20, and for the third value, user enters 99999. And in this case, the number of valid days is just the days with the rainfall 10 and 20, because 99999 is the value to end the program, okay, to end taking the input. And then you say number of valid days is 2, and then average rainfall is 15, okay, 30. 10 plus 20 is 30, 30 by 2 is 15. And similarly here, you can see that there are 3 rainfalls, 0, 10, and 20. So here there could be a confusion, right? So should we consider 0 as valid or not valid? And for that, again, I would go back here, because it says that the program should output the count and the average of the non-negative numbers. When we say non-negative, 0 is neither a positive nor a negative number, right? And so when we say like non-negative, we consider all positive numbers, including 0, okay? So in this case, 0 is considered as a valid value for rainfall. So the answer here is going to be, there are 3 rainfalls, 0, 10, and 20. So the total is 30. 30 divided by 3 valid days is nothing but number of valid days is 3, and the average rainfall is 30 divided by 3 is 10. But here you can see here that's minus 20, minus 10, 10, and 20. And clearly minus 20 and minus 10 are negative numbers, and so we are not going to include them. So the only valid rainfall measurements here are 10 and 20. And so the number of valid days is 2, and the average rainfall is 15, okay? Now, that is a thing that says, okay, 99999. So there is just one number right at the beginning. That is the number to exit the program. And in this case, a program should just print no rainfall, okay? In this case, a program should just print no rainfall. So one key thing before writing any such programs, to understand the problem really well, I would even spend, for this small problem, if I was reading it for the first time, I would have even spent like 20 to 30 minutes just to understand the problem before even trying to write any line of code, okay? And then now with it, okay, so don't worry about this. Sorry, I just forgot to like remove this. We do not have the time to do breakout rooms, but this was an exact problem that I gave to one of my student like classes, learning introductory programming, where we actually split out into breakout rooms to do this, okay? So we are not going to do breakout rooms right now, but I'm going to show you how to go about developing this particular problem, okay? So we are, so let's try writing this, okay? I'm going to create a new file, and I'm using VS Code as the editor. Okay, just in case if you're not aware of VS Code. So first I'm just going to like name this, okay, save this file as rainfall, okay, save this file as rainfall, and it saves it as rainfall.py. Okay, the first thing I want to say is, how do you even get input from the user? So see here, I'm going to do this in a step-by-step manner. That is the key thing to observe here. So trying to make sure that we do something and test it, debug it before proceeding to the next few lines of code, okay? So first, I'm just going to say, hey, first I just even want to get some input from the user. And so I know that if I want to get some input from the user in Python, it is using this input function. And if you're using other languages, that'd be like similar functions for that, right? And so here I'm just going to say, what does the prompt require? The prompt just requires rainfall with a colon at the end and the space after that, right? So I just say like, prompt is just rainfall with a colon after this and the space after the colon, and whatever input that I'm going to get from the user, I'm just going to save this in a variable called rainfall. Okay, that's all I'm doing, just this line, and I just want to make sure if I'm able to get this input properly. So for doing this, I'm just going to print the rainfall variable here to see. So this itself is a step, right? This is a step. I'm making sure if this input is working properly as I'm expecting. And then if I'm able to store that value in this variable called rainfall, and then so on. So now when I run this, okay, here you can see that it is asking me, okay, here you can see that it is asking me rainfall. And if I say 10, Okay, it prints 10. You see this? It prints 10. I'm just going to clear the screen. So just making sure is the prompt size, is the font size good enough? Like type in chat if you feel it's good enough. You just say yes. If you like to help me, want me to increase. Okay, awesome. I see from Roshni, it's good. Okay, thanks. So now with this, okay, with this, I'm going to again, like, let's say, run this program. Okay, so Python. So, okay, we can run, just for time's sake, I'm just going to run it using this. Okay, so when I run it using this, it is actually using the full path of my Python executable. Okay, I'm not going to go into these details. Full path of my Python executable, and also it gives the name of this particular program here, and that is a valid way to run programs. And then if I, let's say, if I type 30, it is printing 30. That's all I wanted, and that is exactly what is happening. Okay. And another way to run this is also just to say Python and then say rainfall.py. And it's asking me what's the rainfall. If I say 100 is the rainfall, it's printing 100. Great. So this particular step is super important because I made sure that I'm getting input from the user properly. But now what I want to do, okay, after that, once you figure this out, you can remove this print statement, right? And after that, now it is not just one time I want to get this input. I want to keep getting this input continuously from this user. So what is something that we could use? What is a programming feature that we could use to make sure that we can continuously get input from the user again and again and again? Please feel free to type in chat or direct message me in chat too. I type in chat to everyone, what is a programming feature we could use here to make sure that we can get input continuously? We could get inputs about the rainfall continuously from the user. Is it a variable, or is it if-else conditional statement, or is it a loop, or is it a function? I'm getting some direct messages right now. That is good, but feel free to like type it to everyone too. That's totally fine. Nice, nice, nice. I'm not sure, like, few people are amazing here. So all of you are sending me the correct answer, but I think you're just like scared to send it to everyone. That's totally fine. I got like so many direct responses to me, and all the responses say it is loop. Okay, it's a loop that we should be using. Amazing. Okay, great. So now I'm going to use a loop. Okay, so in this case, I have to think about, okay, which loop to use. Okay, the question that I'm worried about here is like which loop to use. Okay, we could use a for loop versus we could use a while loop. Okay, but I want to understand, okay, when would we use a for loop? We will use a for loop when we know exactly how many times this loop is going to run. Okay, for example, if we have a list of numbers, if we have like 100 numbers in a list, and if you want to iterate through each and every number in that particular list, then you say that, okay, hey, we have this number list and I want to run this list 100 times, or the number of times there are a number of elements in this list. So in that case, you could use a for loop. But in this case, I really do not know how many times this loop is going to run, because the user can just provide 10 numbers or 20 rainfall measurements or 1,000 rainfall measurements. So as long as the user enters 99999, this loop is going to run. So in such a case, a while loop is a better thing here. Okay, I'm also like getting suggestions from people in chat that, okay, what could we do here? Great. Like one of the suggestions is we could use a while loop here, like a while true. So this while true means that this loop is going to run infinitely, okay? Because true, this condition in the while loop is just says like it's always true, okay? And then in Python, we have this indenting thing, right? So we indent this and we say that while this is true, keep on getting this rainfall. And if you want, again, make sure, if you want, again, just even print it to make sure if this is happening continuously. Okay, so this is all I'm just making sure if I'm able to like loop continuously, get this inputs continuously. Step 2 of the process. First, we just check if input works. Now I'm checking if the infinite while loops works as expected. So I'm going to run this now, and then I see, okay, I'm entering 10. Nice. Then it's printing 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, and so on. So this while loop is working as expected, but it is working as expected in a way that what happens if we print 99999? The specification, the program specification says that we should exit. Okay, we should exit the program when we enter this thing called 99999. And but here if we press 99999, it still continues. Okay, it still continues. It still asks you for some input. You can press. So we are not taking care of that. The way that we could take care of that here is by saying, okay, hey, if this rainfall, only if this rainfall value is equal to 99999, then what should you do? You should exit this loop. How could you exit a particular loop? You can break out of a particular loop using a statement called break. So here I'm just saying like the rainfall is equals to 99999, then break. Now again, before proceeding, I'm going to actually check this. Okay, I'm actually going to check this. So I'm running this. So 10 works fine, 20 works fine, 30 works fine, 99999. It's still going on. What is happening here? Again, like I'm not like pretending here. I'm just like trying to figure out. So what is really happening here? If rainfall is 99999, we break. Did we say that before running? If people figure it out, if people already figured out what the error is, feel free to like let me know, because here again, this is I think it's unintentional thing that's happening. Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 99999. Oh, okay. I think I figured it out. This is an amazing thing that's happening here. I think I figured this out, but let's take this, okay? Let's take this as an opportunity for folks to see, like, if you are able to, okay, this is, I did not intend to make this error, okay? Just to be clear here, I did not intend to make this error. This just happened, okay? But now it's a really good opportunity for us to debug. How do we go about debugging what is happening? We should have exited when we press 99999, but for some reason the programs keep on going. Feel free to type in chat if you figured out like what issue is going on here. Nice. I'm seeing like, feel free to like type it in the general chat, folks, because so that everyone can see, okay? Because you are giving, almost everyone is giving like right answers here. Okay, awesome. So the problem here is, okay, to really understand the problem here, the thing is, we need to understand how this input works, okay? Input says that the read a string from standard input, the trailing new line is stripped, and then we have to figure out like what this input's return type is, right? So the way that I would go about doing that is I would just go about first try learning a bit about how this input actually works. And more importantly, trying to figure out the return type of input. Okay, so the return type of this input function. So Python input return type. Okay. So it says that the input function reads a line from input, converts the line into a string by removing the trailing new line. That's all we also saw here, right? It can reads a string from standard input. So the rainfall that we are actually getting here is it's a string and it's not an integer. But here we are trying to compare it with an integer, and that is why we are comparing a string with an integer, and then it says that okay, they are not valid and so they are not breaking. Okay. So in order to make this to an integer, you could just say like I am converting this to the input to an integer. Okay, I'm typecasting this in. I'm using this function int function to convert this to an integer, and then now when you run it, okay, it should work. Let's see, 20,99999. What is still happening? Come on, folks. I think I need some help here. So what is happening now? We thought like, okay, almost everyone who answered me also said the data type is not the same. It's a string by default. Try giving 99999 with quotes. And then now we are, let's exit this. So we are converting it to an integer, right? So just to like make sure these things are working properly too, I'm just going to make sure to write a print statement here. Okay, another print statement here just to make sure that we are in this version of the program. End of loop. Okay, end of loop. And 9999. So end of loop is being printed because it enters that stage. Okay, then 20 99999. Yes. Okay. I think the last time I just did not save it before running it, or I was running the previous the previous version of the file. Okay. But now after saving this, like this works. Okay. This is great. So now see here, just with this line, I had an issue with input because I did not really think about what input is returning. I was assuming that it was returning an integer, but really it was returning a string. And so if I had not worried about this, and if I had just proceeded, then the whole thing would have been like, I would have got to this error only after writing such a large program, right? Again, just to be really honest here, I really did not intend to make this errors. And these types of errors happen during a live coding session, and that becomes such a valuable opportunity for our students to learn. Okay, so now I figured this out. Great. I'm proceeding now. Okay, I'm going to proceed. So now I am even going to remove this rainfall print. If it is 99999, then print. Okay, so now then what happens? We have to compute the average, right? The average of the valid rainfall. So in order to do that, I'm just going to have this variable called total. Okay, total rainfall, and I'm just having it as 0. And here in the loop, I'm just saying like total rainfall equals total plus the rainfall that we get. Okay, and that's all I'm doing here. And then at the end, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm just adding this rainfall. I'm just going to within the loop itself, I'm just going to see if I'm able to print this total. Okay, if I'm able to print this total, I'm running this again. 10, so total is 10, 20, the total is 30 now because 10 plus 20 is 30, then 30, total is 60 now, then 40, total is 100 now. Nice, 99999. We should exit the program. Awesome. So this is working again. Now I'm going to proceed to the next step now. Okay, awesome. So we are able to compute the total. But one more thing I have figured out, I think I missed here is, okay, if we run this program again, if I say minus 10, okay, it says 10. Minus 10 is the total. If I say then 10, it says 0 is the total. Minus 20, then just 20. It says that the total is just 0, which is wrong, right? Because we have to ignore the negative numbers as per the program specification. Because program specification says that only take the average of the non-negative numbers. So to compute the average of the non-negative numbers, we have to ignore all the negative numbers. So in this case, we are not doing that. So I would go ahead and probably add a if statement saying that if the rainfall is greater than or equal to 0, because 0 is also a valid number, so I'm including 0, then add the total and also print the total after that. Now trying to figure that out again. Okay. Just a minute. So 10, 20, minus 10, minus 20. You can see here that once I pressed minus 10, it was not added to the total, and minus 20 was also not added to the total, and total just remains the same. So we are ignoring the negative numbers right now. Along with these things, great. Okay, so along with these things, so great, we have the total now, but now we want the average. To compute the average, okay, so now after finishing the all the total computation, I would get out. Okay, so I'm just going to first exit the program here. Okay, after computing all the total, I'm just going to say the average is nothing but total divided by, like, we need number of valid measurements, right? So we need to have a variable called count. Okay, we need to have a variable called count, and we started at 0. And whenever there is a positive rainfall value here, we can just say that the count is nothing but count is equal to count plus 1. Every time there is a positive rainfall value, we are just adding the count here. So we say that average is equal to total by count, and then we are just printing the average. Okay, we can just print the way that they ask us to print is both the number of valid days and the average rainfall. So I'm just going to say number of valid days equals, what is the thing? We have that in count, because count this computes the positive days, right? Positive number of days. And then similarly, I want to print the average rainfall immediately after that. Average rainfall equals average. Okay, average rainfall equals average. Now when we run this, okay, now when we run this, let's take a look at this. Rainfall 10. Now we are not printing anything. Okay, so 20, then 30, then 40. So what is the average of all these four numbers? It is 10 plus 20, 30, 30 plus 30 is 60, 60 plus 40 is 100. And so now if I press 99999, we should say like 100 divided by 4 valid days is nothing but 25, okay? So the number of valid days is 4 and the average rainfall is 25, okay? Now I'm going to pause at this point, okay, for the next 1 minute or so. It seems like the program is complete, but I want to hear from you folks, okay? I want to hear from you folks. What do you think? I'm going to start a poll now. I don't see an option for a poll. Kumaraguru, if you are here, could you try making me a co-host?
Yeah, I just made. Let me know if you see, otherwise I'll create poll. You're not able to?
I'm not able to, but I think that's fine. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is like we could just use the thing here. Okay, I'll just create a question here. That's totally, we could just do it like now. Okay? So I'm just saying, I'm going to say the question is, okay, are we done? Are we done with this program? In other words, do you think that will this program work fine in all the cases that we saw, or if there are still any issues? So just answer yes or no. Okay, I just want to see, go to this form again. Okay, go to the same form that we were using before, right? I'm just going to share the link again. Go to the same form, and now you should be able to see that question, that additional question that says like, are we done? Okay, and I want to hear from you, like what you think. Just fill in your email, your name, and just this question, the question of are we done? Are we done in the sense, do you think the program is complete now, or is there anything else that we need to take care of? Okay. Just go ahead and start answering this here. Just this question, okay. I see some responses already. Nice. Think about it. Take a look at this program. We just like got 20. When we say like 4, then we got 25 as the average rainfall. But are we done, or is there something else that's still missing? Okay. Let's see what folks think. Okay, so this is interesting. So 25% of the class thinks that we are done, or it's increasing. Okay, the increasing number of people here start thinking that we are done, but still there is like a population that thinks that we are not yet done. Okay, now it's 50-50. This is a good time to ask folks. Okay, so why do you think we are not done here? Can someone like unmute yourself and try answering? Or even if you say like if we are done also, that's totally fine. I'm just going to like what to say, yeah, give you a chance. So feel free to like unmute yourself and answer like, why do you think we are done, or why do you think we are not done? Either way is fine. We're not expecting a correct answer here.
Sir, my name is Roshni. So,
hi, Roshni.
Hi, sir. I think I answered that it was not done because there was this test case provided where if the first input given was 99999, then it should say no rainfall, and we didn't include that yet.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Such an amazing attention to detail. Well done, Roshni. Great. So we did not even handle this test case yet. So we are not yet done. Okay. But there are like anything else, anything. That's a great answer. Awesome. Anything else that makes you folks think that we are not yet done? I can give you a clue here. Okay. We are not yet done. Okay. I can give you a clue here. Look at this input. The input is rainfall. 0 is a valid measurement. Okay. So 0 is a valid measurement. So first let's address Roshni's concern here. So if we include 99999, which means that first let's just try running that and say like, what happens if we say like 99999999999? The program even crashes. The program even crashes. Why does it crash? It says like division zero division error, division by zero. What is happening here? Because if it is 99999, we do not have any valid input, okay? The total is zero, that is fine, but the count still remains as zero. And when the count is zero, division by zero, zero by zero is like undefined, right? And so division by zero happens. So we have to address this. This is amazing, Roshni. So in this case, you can just say like if count, okay, if count is equal to zero, and the same thing, before we even proceed, it's not just this case, okay? It's not just the case that Roshni pointed us out. It is also the other case where when we just enter zero, let's say if there are 3 zeros, the answer should have been the average rainfall is 0, right? But in this case, let's see what is happening. The average rainfall is 0. Okay, awesome. So because we have already included the 0 here, this is great. I think this case is being handled. I was assuming this was not handled, but since we already have a greater than or equal to 0, this is being handled, and we are counting the count to be 3, and then we say that total by count is 0 by 3, which is 0. So the only thing that's not being handled is whatever just Roshni pointed us out. If rainfall, okay, if the count is equal to 0, if the count is equal to 0, then we understand that the first user, the input the user has entered is just 99999, or it could also be just the user entered like multiple negative values, and then with the 99999, there are no positive values here. Then we just say, in that case, what did we ask us to say? Like just no rainfall. Okay, we just print no rainfall. Again, remember, so the most of the things that we're doing with print here, okay, in actual, when you're doing this in a more full-fledged manner, this would be, we could compose this as a function, and whatever we want to like return, we should be returning from the function and so on. But this for the time constraints, I just did not get into those details. Okay, so we just like print no rainfall, but at the same time, else if count is not 0, if it is non-zero, then go and calculate the average rainfall. That's an amazing thing to find out. 99999. I'm just going to run this again. So just if you plus 99999, it should say like average is not defined. So it's still not working. What is happening here? When we say 99999, now it says that the average is not defined. And the line that it says, the thing is average rainfall is equal to average. So I'm only defining this inside the else part here. So it is not visible in the overall, in the global scope. So I'm just going to say average equals 0. Okay, average equals 0. I'm defining it here so that I can redefine it. I can like change it here. So now when I say 99999, it says that no rainfall, but it still says number of valid days is 0 and average rainfall is 0, which is incorrect again, because we only want these things to be printed only if there is some valid measurements, right? So I am just moving this inside the else part so that if we process the edge case of just 99999, it's telling us no rainfall. And if we do the regular cases like 10, 20, and 30, it's giving us the average is 20. And even if I just do something like minus 10, minus 20, minus 30, all the negative numbers, just negative numbers with 99999, it should just say no rainfall. Again, this is also important because there is no valid rainfall measurement here, okay? None of the measurements are valid. And so we really did not define this case explicitly in the sample cases, but this makes sense here because there is no valid rainfall measurement, and so we just say no rainfall. Okay, great job. I'm really glad that folks are super involved in this. Okay, nice. So before we conclude, I also, because we now have like only 10 more minutes for the actual lecture, I just want to give you a chance to give you the scenario. Okay, the scenario is similarly for the same rainfall problem that we just wrote. One of your friends has come up with this particular solution. Okay, and the solution says they are using a list called like an empty list called valid rainfall, and they're using float, that is fine. Okay, don't worry about this because float is much more generic than an integer, and so this is fine. But they're saying that whenever a rainfall is greater than 0, they are appending it, they're adding that particular rainfall to this list called valid rainfall. And whenever the rainfall becomes 99999, they are breaking it. And then they're using some functions like sum. Sum just computes the sum of all the numbers inside that list, and length gives you the total number of elements in that particular list, and they are using this way to figure it out. And so the question here is like your friend has come up with this version of the rainfall function, okay, and they are having some issues with it. How would you help them to test and debug it? Okay, so how would you help them to test and debug it? So I want you to actually try testing it and debugging this, okay, and then I'm just going to share the slides with you folks so that you can also take a look at it on your own, okay. So the slides are here. Feel free to take a look at this, okay? And especially the page that we're looking at is this page. We have this rainfall. I want you to go and answer in the same lecture participation form, right? In the same lecture participation form. See, it was interesting. 50% thought that we are done. 50% thought we are not done. We are really not done. But this is great. Thank you all for responding. So the next question that we are going to answer is looking at that code that we have, okay? What errors or bugs did you find in your friend's version of the rainfall problem, and how will you modify them? Okay, what errors or bugs did you find in your friend's version of the rainfall problem, and how did you modify? Even if you can figure out one bug and tell us how could you modify that one bug, that should be good enough for the time constraints that we have here. So let's take 3 minutes for this again. Okay, I'm going to let you just again go ahead and write your email, your name, and just answer this question. Okay, just answer this particular question. You can say one error that I found with the rainfall problem, that particular version of the rainfall problem, is that the person was using lists to do this. Probably there's some error with that, and so on. Okay, and then I would fix it by using this particular way, something along those lines. Okay. So feel free to I'm going to share the link again, link to the participation form again. You have 3 minutes for this. Please answer that so that we see how many bugs people are able to figure out. And the version that we are talking about is this particular version here. Okay, let's take 3 minutes of time for this, just for this. If there are any questions about what you are required to do, please feel free to ask me now. Kumaraguru, just making sure, was the prompt clear to you? What I was trying to convey to our students?
Yes, regarding the question to fill up in the form, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
a little subjective. So yeah, feel free to write anything because it's not yes or no sort of question.
Exactly, yeah.
I had one question though, maybe just a brain teaser for others. We assume that the inputs the users are going to give us always integers.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's a really good question. So you can assume that in this case, you can assume that user is not a malicious user. User is always going to give you correct input. In the sense, in this case, they can just give you an integer inputs that works. And in this case, the float will also work, but I can assume that the user is always going to give you proper inputs. Okay. Thank you.
I did a mistake. I was trying to do something. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, people are starting to answer. That's nice. And just to be clear with folks, okay, in this particular version of the program, we have at least one error. Okay, there is at least one error here. So folks have started answering. Okay, So I'm just going to take a sample response from here, and then let's see what people are thinking. Okay. I think I already have it here. So we are at this question on testing and debugging. Nice. Though the question explicitly, I'm just going to read these things out. Okay, so let's make this a bit big. Though the question explicitly mentions that non-negative values must be accepted, the program only appends positive values into the list. Very nice observation. Line 4 must be changed to if rainfall is greater than or equal to 0. Awesome. That's another question that says, another response that says, in the case where rainfall equals 0, there is no value being appended to the list, so the length does not increase, and hence the average will not be as expected. Very good. So the same thing, right? To modify this, we have to change the if statement to have rainfall is greater than or equal to 0, so that the count is correct. And also the case where rainfall is 99999 as the first input, the condition is not being handled. So similar to the previous question, we have to add a condition where length of the array is 0. And in that case, we should print no rainfall. Awesome, awesome observations, folks. And also there's one more person who thinks like no rainfall option not present, add condition to check if length of the list is 0, and then add the condition. Very good. 0 should be a valid input, change condition to greater than or equal to 0, and all the other issues with 99999 will be appended to the list, then it should not be counted. Awesome, very good, really amazing observations, folks. Okay, so I'm just going to go and take that particular version, okay, where I think this is the version that we have there, right? Just to be clear, we have it greater than 0, the rainfall measurement here. Nice. Okay, so the main thing I would first do is I first go and run it. Okay, when the testing process starts like this, when I run this, I say like 10, 20, 30, and 40. Now I think that if I press 99999, the answer that I should get is 100 divided by 425. But let's see what we are getting. Wow, we are getting the average rainfall, the number of days to be 5, which should have been 4. But the average rainfall is this big. The problem is with this 99999 being counted. So you can see here that we get the rainfall value, and we say like if rainfall is greater than 0, okay, if the rainfall is greater than 0, then valid rainfall, we append the valid rainfall immediately without even checking if it is 99999. So the 99999 value gets added to the list by default, irrespective, even though we are breaking from the loop here. Before even breaking, we add it to the list called valid rainfall, and then we are using that valid rainfall as a way to compute the sum of the valid rainfalls and the length of the valid rainfalls to compute the average, and so that particular value is being added there. And so the same issue persists when you even just say 99999. It says that, okay, now it says, okay, I was running this. So the problem here was, okay, it's not working properly because the problem here is I'm running the previous version of the file called rainfall.py, but the file that we are running now is called rainfalldebug.py. Okay, I was even surprised. Oh, how did this work? Rainfalldebug.py. Okay, so now when we say 99999, it says that number of valid days is 1 and the average rainfall is 999, which is clearly incorrect, right? So one way to correct that is to change this, okay, is to take this if condition and place it immediately after you get the input before you add it to the list, okay? And then now let's see how this condition is handled. We just debug the program now. We tested and debugged the program now. And now if I say 99999, it still has the division by 0 error because we are not handling that, okay? We are not handling the division by 0 error here because now the length of the list becomes 0. Right, and so to handle that, now you should again say something like if length of this list, which is valid rainfall, if it is equals to 0, right? If the length of the valid rainfall is 0, then you just say, then you print no rainfall, okay? No rainfall. And else you just print these other things that we did. So now when we run it, and if we press 99999, it says no rainfall. Nice. But at the same time, let's see if you have really figured out all the cases, right? Remember the case with 0, 10, and 20. Now it should say 30 divided by 3, which is 10, right? Let's see what is happening. In this case, it says number of valid days is only 2. It is not counting 0 as a valid day. And it is saying average rainfall is 15, which is wrong. And to correct this, I would go ahead and check that, okay, hey, are we counting 0? No, we are not counting 0. So we should count 0. We're saying rainfall is greater than or equal to 0. Then add it here. What just happened here? I am not sure. Did folks like just try drawing?
Someone wants to point to something.
Oh, point to something. Okay, awesome. So I was just like, I just was worried, like, did I do something, or this is it in Zoom that people were drawing here? If you have any question, folks, feel free to ask. But yeah, this is the last bug that we are fixing. And so now once we fix this, it should say even if it is 0, 10, and 20, it should say the average rainfall is now 3 days is the valid days, and 30 divided by 3 is 10. Okay. And with this, we are done. Thank you so much for your time. This is the process of incremental development, developing it in small pieces, small logical steps at a time, then testing it to make sure if it works properly, and then debugging it one bug at a time to make sure that we go towards a full-fledged version of the problem. Again, like this particular program still has a lot more things to handle. For example, it does not handle things like if I run it as, if I just enter ASAN here, right, that's valid input, then it says like, okay, could not convert string to float, and we need other mechanisms to handle these things. And so that will be like, that process is called iterative development, where, okay, now let's handle a lot more bugs. We have a basic version of the function working. Let's take this, let's handle many more things, and then let's keep on iterating over it. So really, the key things that we learned in today's class are incremental development, then testing and debugging. I hope you learned something about this process from me today. And before we go, okay, before you go in the last few minutes, when I'm going to open the floor for questions, and I'm happy to stay here for a few more minutes. If you have some other commitments, feel free to like leave now, but I'm happy to stay for the next 10 minutes or so to answer any questions that folks have. But before leaving, also remember to these are going to be your homework, basically filling out this whole form. Okay, so remember to answer these 3 questions. What are some 2 to 3 ideas you learned in today's class? Okay, I want it to be in somewhat descriptive manner, like in full sentences. Okay, about like what you really learned from this today's class, and also what questions do you still have about today's lecture, or did you find anything confusing about today's lecture? I do not have any future lectures in ASAN, but I am happy to like share the answers to your questions as a Google Doc, or like create a video and share it with the folks or something like that. I'm happy to do that if there are people are still confused about things from this lecture. And if there's any feedback that you would like to give for my lectures, especially this particular lecture, right, please write it here. Okay, these are questions I would like you to answer, but now I'm opening up the floor for questions. And this is the only tool that you have before the next class to submit this form, this Google form to submit this Google form, so that you get credit for participation in this class. Thank you so much. Okay, so now the floor is open to questions. Okay, so feel free to ask any questions by unmuting yourself, or typing it in chat to everyone, or typing it in chat just privately to me, so that I can just read out your question without telling your name. Okay. Yes, I think, Kumar, I think it's okay to keep recording. Yeah. Thanks for asking. If you don't have any questions also, that's fine. Feel free to like fill this form. Okay, fill the form that we have right now. Okay, because I want this time, I just want to be here to see like if there are any questions, because slowly students may ask questions, or feel free to like share any feedback about the class and so on if you would like. But answer these 3 questions so that I can see like what people are thinking about this, and could even like answer one question at a time also, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, so these are some responses I don't think I want right now. Okay, so if you want to take more time, feel free to do that. But just about Python programming or something like that's not very useful. Try articulating like really what you learned. So for example, I learned X. I did not know how to do this before, but now I think from this lecture I was learning something like that. I want to like learn more about what you really learned and not just like 1 or 2 word answers. Okay. Okay, so let's see. I'll wait for another 4 minutes or so to see if folks have any questions. If they're sending me any questions or any comments, and even if you're sending me any comments, I'm happy to like read them out to the lecture to everyone. Okay, I am starting to get comments. Thank you so much for an amazing session. It was really interesting and had my attention throughout. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me know that. I'm really happy to hear that, because one of my main intentions whenever I teach a class is to make sure that I have the complete student's attention, and having this feedback in a Zoom session is like really, yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. So there's such a kind words from students. So one of our students is saying, if possible, please take more sessions. I'd be like happy to do that, but at the same time, I have like a lot of things going on at my current institution, like where I'm going to teach like 3 courses next quarter. I'm getting like really busy here. I don't think I'll be able to like teach additional sessions, but this particular experience really motivated me to actually see how we could actually offer some full-fledged courses on a particular topic moving forward. So I would definitely like work towards that. So, but in this seminar, in this particular seminar, I think this is going to be my last class or the last time I'm going to see you. Probably I may be joining you for the one last time in the last lecture or so. But this is going to be my time in this thing. It was such a amazing opportunity to see you folks. Okay, I'm going to wait for 2 more minutes to see if there are any questions or any comments from students. I'm getting another comment. I'm going to read this out. Thank you for taking time to teach/mentor us, sir. You are a great professor. Thank you so much. You're a great professor. I really loved your sessions. It was not the usual drone of static and bad internet that we hear online. Wow, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, sir. Again, just to give you some background here, the type of research, this is like, okay, I can even share you that quickly, right? Okay, I will just share with you folks that particular thing. Okay, so if you look at this, this is my web page. Okay, this is my web page, and one of my research areas is basically in this area called live coding. Okay, and if you folks, if you want to like access my research papers, feel free to like, it is here, and that is my research web, that's my web page. And so my area, one of my research areas is in the space of live coding, and we are like researching it like at UC San Diego and also with my collaborators at UW-Madison, right? But this work, like whatever work that I'm doing, where did it even start? It started at CEG, right? So one of the places that we started this work was at CEG. So if folks know Annie ma'am was one of my teachers when I was there. She's still there at CEG. She is one of our collaborators here. And we wrote this paper comparing live coding, which whatever you experience right now, with static code examples, which is the way of just writing code beforehand in a lecture slide or something, and then showing that code before students and explaining it line by line. We tried to understand what was better with respect to student learning and cognitive load. Spoiler here, with respect to student learning, we weren't able to see any change, but we are doing additional experiments right now at UC San Diego. And with cognitive load, we saw that students in the live coding group experienced reduced cognitive load, which is actually good for learning. Okay, and this was done in collaboration with UW-Madison, UC San Diego, and our College of Engineering, Indiana University. Annie ma'am helped us a lot with this, and there were 3 other people like Renuka ma'am, then just like, I don't remember the, just a minute, I'm just thinking, I don't remember the other 2 folks, sorry. I don't remember the other two folks who helped us, but there were like people. Okay, I'm getting another comment. I'm just going to share. Thank you for taking the time to teach us today. Your kind words and conceptual style of teaching is something new to me, and I enjoy it a lot. Hope to see you mentor us again soon. Thank you so much. And recently, like with this live coding work, right? We even received an NSF award. Okay, like an NSF is the funding agency here in the United States, and we received an NSF award for this particular project. Okay, so if you want to like learn more about like what we are doing, I can just share with you what this award is about. Okay, what this research is about. You can see that this is the project. This is, you can learn the description of this project here. Okay, we recently got awarded for this so that we can do a lot more research in this space. Okay, so I'm just sharing the link to the NSF award here. Okay, I think we are already like 10 minutes past the scheduled time, so I don't want to, like being constraint of people's time here. I don't want to take much more time here, and I think I personally had a really good time interacting with you folks. Okay, thank you so much for everything, and yeah, I think that with that we are done. Probably like one last time, just wanted to say something out of academics since it's your last session. Hope you don't mind. I don't really mind anything. So, but I feel like you look like a musician, Santosh Narayan. Thanks for the compliment. Thank you. Okay, with that, we are done. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you for attending. Thank you so much, Kumaraguru and Karthik for organizing these sessions.
It's our pleasure, and we have to thank you. And we hope for more sessions in future for the next patches and stuff. So looking forward to working with you more.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you all. Yeah, take care and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.